Well, thanks for, as I say, for sitting down with me. I want to get started with a question that has become, I think, my favorite. Tim Ferriss he's my favorite interviewer, and one of his go-to questions is, if you could have a billboard that all the world could see, what would you want it to say? That could be a quote, it could be advice, it could be something that you know. What would yours be, Michael?
Resilience. It's about resilience. That means for me, when I'm looking on the future, is our joint capacity to build resilience. That means, we are this year in the United Nations Food System Summit year, September, taking place in New York. Us, seed sector, it's about how we can contribute to food resilience and security. And this would be by seed resilience. That means for me, the buzzword, I would say, from our perspective is building resilience together.
Building resilience together. I think I like that, sir. I like that. Well said.
Yeah, now we have to deliver. We are yet delivering, but I think we are all sitting here and we would like to do more. And that's also the sense of this year, even if we are not meeting in person again. How long this year we will see. We need to work together. We continue work together, and therefore we need to have these joint visions and dreams. And for us to deliver together is to deliver on this resilience, seed resilience.
Excellent. So sustainable, right? It's a word that we've heard bantered around a lot. And I think sustainable has always been talked about more at that regional level. Like, how are we sustainable in each country, in each continent? And you're being challenged with, how do we come up with a global perspective, and how do we get people on side from a global perspective? How does that work as you're trying to bring these different sustainability systems as it relates to seed all under one concept?
Yeah, that's an excellent point. And I think, you're speaking about sustainability. Let's bridge it with these discussions, because I think it's really fundamental that the seed sector is part of these discussions on food systems, because food systems, there are local food systems, there are regional food systems, there's perhaps we can say a global food system. And the point is, to all these diverse food systems with specific diets, with specific needs, at the end, that's where we have to position ourselves as the seed sector rightly, because seed is the starting point, and everybody agrees. That means food production is depending from the seed we are putting into the ground, and therefore building also our capacity to respond, to support smallholder farms, subsistence farms, farmers south and northern hemisphere, to this challenge, to build this local, regional or global food system. That's where we are. That's where we have to engage together.
So what would you say, because there's, I think, a lot of people that if they don't actually roll their eyes, they think about rolling their eyes when they hear this ongoing sustainable conversation. What would you say to them if you could have their ear to tell them why this conversation is so critical to see this global seed industry success?
Yeah, first of all, I think, Sean, look, we are still here sitting at home. We are still somehow in a virtual world, but there's a reality out there. And what is the reality is that during this pandemic, we all felt, hey, we are all depending also on food production, on what the farmers are doing. That means there's a reality out there where we felt again, oh, there could be even an issue with food security. Remember back when the pandemic started, borders were closed, trade were somehow interrupted, and we were really somehow felt, oh, there could be an issue for us for seed supply around the world. And at the same time, this can then impact food security, because the seed of today is the harvest of tomorrow. And therefore, it's so important that all this is linked. And I think there was an important gaining of understanding of food production, where our food is coming from, and who is somehow key actors, or who are the key actors in this food production. And it's clear for us from the seed perspective, it was always clear we have a responsibility. Somehow we have to deliver. And therefore, it was so important for us from the beginning that we could continue the seed supply. And then I think, and Sean, that's your point also on sustainability, and that's the important one we need to highlight, because one point we also felt and we gained, I hope, also the understanding is, seed. What we bring to the farmer needs everywhere to be locally adapted. These are locally adapted variety to address stresses like diseases, like pests or drought, or now also to more respond. We spoke about local food systems, to requests on diets and other nutritional aspects. That's about the topic. That's about the topic of sustainability. That's about the topic. And then I see, the link from where we are coming. Some months back, COVID-19 issue on the whole food security. And now we are discussing this year on, what are the food systems of tomorrow? That means give us the perspective. We need a perspective. And here we need to engage together in the perspective to deliver to resilient food systems.
Right. Well said. So access to innovation has its many challenges around the globe, right? Sometimes it's political, sometimes it's economic, sometimes it's availability. Why should access to innovation be an important factor when the global seed industry is thinking about their next steps?
That's an excellent question, Sean. And I think we just finished this earlier today workshop with our colleagues from China about gene editing. Let's be clear. What are we, the seed sector, doing? It's about breeding, and since ever we are engaged in breeding. It's a kind of continuum. It's in our DNA. But I'm always saying it's not breeding for breeding, or it's innovation for innovation. No, look, I think there are three challenges. Perhaps the first challenge is we have to produce more on less land and with less impact on the environment or climate. I think that's the first. We have to produce more. We need still more varieties with increased yield outcome. We need to have varieties which are pest resistant. That's absolutely fundamental. We need also, and I think that's the second challenge, to be even more efficient. The efficiency is absolutely critical, and I think breeding is helping us to be also in our agricultural management be more efficient. And the third is then the question of quality crops. Quality crops and improved varieties are absolutely essential. And I raised it a little bit earlier before, because today we have also to respond to these new requests coming also from consumers, or to this new request, hyaluronic sunflower oil, all these important things consumers are also looking for. It means, that's about breeding. That's about innovation to address different questions raised by consumers or challenges we have completely also in the field. Therefore, innovation is absolutely essential. We need to drive and to be able to drive our breeding programs. And this is through innovation. Now, yes, there are different tools for innovation. We have new tools like now you hear everywhere gene editing and other tools. And I think what we are looking for also as the private sector, that we can use these wonderful tools also within our breeding programs to bring also our contribution of solutions to the farmers in the ground, on the ground.
Right. And coming up with the techniques doesn't seem to be our difficulty. We seem pretty amazing at being able to come up with these techniques. It's allowing or sharing that information en masse with the people that we're serving to get that right to operate that I think that the seed industry is looking for so hard. Is there a renewed focus and a renewed commitment to kind of telling that story on a bigger scale?
Oh, absolutely. And I think, Sean, I remember back, I think 3 years ago, you started also your Speak Out campaign. I remember well this one. And I think that's absolutely fundamental. I think, the seed sector learned also. Perhaps, I would not say we had made mistakes in past about communication, but we were not used and we were not so exposed to communicate who we are, what we are doing, what are our objectives. And I think therefore it's so absolutely fundamental that also those who are listening us today, hey, we are here, we would like to contribute here to the achievement of the sustainable development goals. To achieve them, we need all actors, and it's clear seed is an essential actor, and it's tremendous to see today, the efforts in innovation with these new tools I mentioned to you before. And by the way, it's not only about the private sector to use latest breeding methods, it's also the public sector. That means public institutes are using these ones also in their breeding programs. This will even help us, and I think that's what we are looking for, that we get the right alignment also in terms of consistency and regulation, that we can use all what we have somehow in our toolbox to deliver. Also on topics, an important topic can be on underutilized crops or orphan crops, where we can perhaps even go further also in the future by being able to use all these different tools. Exciting times, very challenging times at the same time, but therefore we need to sit together, we need to have this joint vision. Hey, here, that's the perspective, and that's what we can do, that's what you're doing, and let's join our forces.
Exactly. Well said. So I would be remiss if I didn't say the C word, Michael, but my COVID question for you, it's going to be a little different. So we know there's been a lot of negatives and a lot of hardship for people all around the globe with COVID. But my question for you is this: what's one good thing that's come from this situation, Michael?
Yeah, it's a tough one, because I think just had some calls with our colleagues again in South America. The situation is extremely difficult still everywhere. And then you saw even in Europe, it's continuing. By the way, today it's the first time we reopened our office here in Switzerland. That means times are perhaps changing and we see some light, but the story is not over. That means also always the call, take care. It's important. Our health is the priority. At the same time, yes, it's clear. We learned to work together also with governments in a perhaps more trustful way, because some points where we feel it would have taken us quite more time is, we always think seed trade is essential. No country worldwide is somehow able to supply its proper needs in seed production. Therefore, there is really an interdependency between the countries. And from research to the variety sold as a commercial variety, a seed can cross many countries or even regions in the world. Therefore, movement of seed is essential. And in terms of COVID, we learned many things. We learned to work together also in a trustful way with authorities. And perhaps the thing where I see, still tremendous opportunities, and we are really supporting this in different ways, is digitalization. The digitalization of the movement of seeds. There's the initiative of e-phyto, electronic phytosanitary certificates, which clearly will help us to move the seed. But these are things, it's clear, we pushed it quicker through than we thought, and that's not our side, that's really the governments also who saw, hey, here's an added value, let's work on digitalization, which means also build trust and build somehow consistency in the way you are handling certificates and how you're controlling. And I think clearly here, nice efforts, nice cooperation, nice learnings, very positive in terms of digitalization. Always said, the pandemic is horrible. We need to go through this, but here clearly one point perhaps to be mentioned as a learning and some positive aspects in terms of digitalization.
Yeah, agreed. I think everyone feels guilty when we try and point out anything positive, but I think it's also one of our jobs as leaders to identify some of those positives. Yeah, good. Well said. How do you keep your members engaged and positive? And did you know that would be as big of a role as it is for what you have to do, Michael?
Yeah, I think that's clear. I must say, I'm really proud to see the seed sector and somehow the solidarity within the seed sector and how the things are moving in direction. It is clear for us, you look, ISF, International Seed Federation, we didn't meet in person our members since 1.5 years. We will miss for the second time now in a row to meet them during the ISF World Seed Congress. It is clear that we had to change our way of engagement. Like everybody, we went virtual and all this engagement. But perhaps what was also for us extremely interesting, we went further also in terms, we launched our Seedball channel, which is absolutely interesting because we could somehow build like this engagement discussions on some key topics. And on top of this, it is also clear we review our whole communications strategy itself. And I would say perhaps the thing, again, is it positive or not? The pandemic allowed us to structurally review also ISF. In a week, we will have our General Assembly, and I hope it will be a vote during the General Assembly. But normally we will go to a whole restructuring of our association, a new, how could I say, dynamic, efficient way of working, to be able to drive topics and to engage. To do what? And I think that's the second point. That means we could review our structure even by not meeting the people. That means lots of interactions, discussions, very open-minded. And the second point, we also approved in these times our new key strategic objectives. And this was also done in a tremendous effort of joining our voices and thinking, hey, where we would like to be in 5 years. That means we have now key strategic objectives, and also very often linked also to sustainable development goals, but also always linked on, yes, it's good what we are doing. We need to have positions from our side, but we need to engage with the value chain, engage with governments, engage with international organizations. And all this somehow we clarified with new scopes and engagement. That means, you see, we took the time also to restructure ourselves in terms of how we are working, the way of working, the way of engagement with our members, even more engagement, more in-depth engagement, and to drive the topics. And at the same time, all this is based on our new key strategic objectives.
Excellent. How excited do you anticipate everyone's going to be to come back together in Barcelona next year, Michael? Scale of 1 to 10.
Oh, it's 10. I wouldn't even go beyond 10. It's clear, we went some weeks ago, we went to Barcelona because frankly, some weeks ago, we still really hoped to organize an ISF World Seed Congress in person. And then you see how the situation is. That means we couldn't provide the real predictability to our members to come and to join. And here it's clear now we are in the middle yet of preparing next year, because in person, ISF World Seed Congress will never replace all the initiatives like we took the World Seed channel and all these things. We need to meet our persons again, and I think everybody's eager to meet, and that's also the thing. And we hope to meet the person from around the world, and not only somehow the Europeans, because we are an international organization. That means from the 5 continents we want to have the people coming. Therefore, we are yet crossing fingers today that the people can really travel next year to come back. Let's not say to a normal ISF World Seed Congress. In any case, it will be different. There will be new ways also of engagement. That's what we learned also during the recent months. But again, to me, I think that's so fundamental and essential for our sector. Agreed.
I think that it'll be great to have, and lots of great conversations can happen virtually. I think both with the ISF Virtual Congress, and then the week after, we're in conjunction with ISF, Seed World International is launching. So I think there is opportunities to have those virtual connections, but they certainly do not replace shaking hands and sharing a beer, Michael. So
absolutely,
I agree with you completely. Michael, thanks very much for your time. I appreciate it. Good to see you, and look forward to shaking that hand soon.